5:21 local time. The contact appears with no warning. One moment, the surface picture is clean. Blue water, normal spacing, routine traffic. Then a single return blossoms on the outer edge of the radar scope. Low profile, steady speed, no broadcast, no AIS. No navigation lights visible at that distance. In the Combat Information Center, no one speaks at first. The track settles in, bearing steady, course fixed, aimed directly at the carrier. Range 24 nautical miles. The watch officer leans closer to the display. The contact is not wandering, not drifting, not falling in with another vessel's wake. It is moving in a straight line through open water, cutting across traffic lanes in a way that makes no sense for commercial shipping. The speed reads 12 knots, then 13, then 14. The increase is gradual, deliberate, subtle enough to draw attention without announcing itself. Radar operators begin the quiet work of confirmation. Secondary sensors come online. Surface search narrows its sweep. Electro-optical cameras are slewed to the bearing, but at that range there is only shimmer and heat haze. No voice traffic, no challenge, no reply. At 5:23, the track classification changes. Small military hull, armed Iranian. The identification comes from shape and movement, not from flags. A narrow silhouette, compact superstructure, the kind of vessel built to make a statement, not to endure punishment. Estimated value, under $10 million. Inexpensive steel, limited sensors, light weapons, a platform designed more for presence than survivability. The carrier does not change course. On the bridge, the officer of the deck keeps his eyes forward, hands resting on the console. No raised voices, no urgency in posture. The ship continues at speed, a floating city holding its line across the sea. Below, in CIC, the range drops to 21 nautical miles. The Iranian ship keeps the same heading. At this distance, there is still room for interpretation, shadowing, signaling, routine harassment. But the geometry is wrong. The bearing does not drift. The contact is not offsetting for a parallel pass. It is driving straight for the bow. The watch team logs each detail point by point. Time, speed, heading, no adjectives, no assumptions. At 5:26, the speed rises again, 17 knots. The closure rate tightens. Carrier flight operations stop without fanfare. On the flight deck, yellow shirts hold aircraft in place. Catapults remain idle. No alarms, no klaxons, just a sudden stillness. Inside the island, a quiet order moves across the internal net. Condition 3, set, and man key stations. No one needs it explained. Everyone aboard understands. Nothing is being fired. Nothing is being targeted. But the ship has shifted from routine posture to readiness. At 18 nautical miles, the Iranian vessel is fully committed. Still no radio call, still no warning, still no effort to make the approach look accidental. The carrier's escorts begin adjusting their spacing almost invisibly. A few degrees here, a knot there. Changes small enough to seem coincidental, precise enough to close every opening. The Iranian ship does not react. Optics finally sharpen enough to resolve the shape. One forward gun, exposed antennas, deck crew visible, small figures against bare steel. No visible damage control gear, no helmets, no rush. Just sailors standing watch on a ship moving towards something vastly larger than itself. 14 nautical miles. Now the vessel is well inside the distance where mistakes stop being theoretical. In CIC, a voice finally cuts through the silence. Contact maintains course, no deviation. The report is flat, factual, without emphasis. The carrier's own track remains unchanged. That in itself is the message. At 12 nautical miles, the Iranian ship crosses a boundary that is not territorial or legal, but tactical. From here, every second begins to compress. The sea is calm, the sun is high. There is no weather to blame, no swell to hide behind. Every movement is visible, every choice is deliberate. The ship increases speed once more, 19 knots. The closure rate tightens again, still no hail, still no warning. On the bridge, the captain watches the horizon through glass that has seen decades of encounters like this. He does not reach for the microphone, he does not shift his posture, he waits. Because at this distance, the next move will define everything. The carrier holds course, the Iranian ship does not. Range 8 nautical miles. CIC records another entry. Contact is committing. And for the first time since the track appeared, the room feels smaller. Not because of fear, but because the number of remaining options is shrinking fast. 5:28 local time. The distance keeps closing, but nothing else changes. The carrier does not maneuver, no rudder commands, no engine changes. From the outside, it looks almost indifferent, a steel city continuing its transit as though the approaching ship were irrelevant. Inside the Combat Information Center, that illusion is gone. Every console is alive now, not loud, not frantic, just locked in. Radar tracks refresh faster, surface plots tighten. Electronic support measures listen more closely, stripping background noise away from possible intent. The Iranian ship stays silent. No bridge-to-bridge call, no maritime warning, no attempt to frame the approach as a misunderstanding. The rules of engagement lie open on the watchstand, not as a checklist, but as a line in the sand. Warn, observe, document. Do not escalate unless there is no other choice. The watch officer checks the numbers again. Range, 7 nautical miles. Bearing unchanged. Collision geometry holding steady. This is not shadowing. Shadowing drifts. This is alignment. On the bridge, the captain gives a single instruction, quiet enough that only the immediate watch can hear it. Maintain course and speed. That order matters. A course change would turn the moment into a maneuvering contest. More speed would look like retreat. Either move would hand the initiative to the other ship. Holding steady does the opposite. It forces the approaching vessel to make the next choice. Below deck, the ship shifts into position without drama. Defense teams report manned but inactive. No targeting solutions are generated. No tracking radars break silence. The 5-inch gun remains trained fore and aft, motionless, its presence understood without being displayed. This is not weakness. It is control. At 6 nautical miles, the Iranian ship's superstructure is clear through optics. Individual deck crew can now be counted. No visible life jackets, no emergency posture, no sign of a drill. Their bow wave sharpens as speed holds. Inside CIC, the electronic warfare team reports the first emissions. Low-power radar sweeps. Short range, not a lock. Not full fire control behavior, but active, and that matters. Passive observation can be denied. Active emission cannot. It means the carrier has entered the Iranian ship's targeting picture. Even without comment, the information is recorded. Time, frequency, bearing. The carrier does not respond. That silence forces interpretation, and interpretation creates pressure. At 5 nautical miles, the water between the ships begins to feel uncomfortably small. At this distance, human error can be as dangerous as intent. One incorrect helm order, one misunderstood signal, one moment of pride. Still no radio traffic. The Iranian ship does not slow. On the flight deck, aircrew stand by aircraft that will not launch unless ordered. Helmets clipped, visors up, no engines turning, no deck alarms. Just waiting. Waiting is harder than acting. The escorting destroyers hold their positions, spaced with precision, covering sectors that do not overlap visually, but close perfectly on paper. Their radars remain quiet. Their silhouettes do not posture. Everything about the formation sends the same message. We are already prepared. At 4 nautical miles, the Iranian ship makes a small course correction. Not away, toward. Just a few degrees, enough to tighten the intercept and remove any remaining doubt. Enough to show intent without fully committing to impact. Inside CIC, the assessment is immediate. This is no longer ambiguous. Still, there is no escalation, no signal shot, no siren, no broadcast. The carrier continues ahead, massive and unyielding, forcing the geometry to resolve on its own. At this point, one fact becomes unavoidable. If the Iranian ship keeps coming, this encounter will not end with words. That reality hangs in the air without being spoken. The captain remains silent. He is not waiting for permission. He is waiting for certainty. At 3 nautical miles, the approach enters its most dangerous phase. This is the distance where momentum cannot be reversed quickly, where pride meets physics. The Iranian ship's radar emissions spike for a moment. Still not a full combat-grade lock, but closer now. Probing, testing. The data is captured, time-stamped, stored. The carrier does not flinch. Its mass, its escorts, its aircraft, its unseen network of sensors all remain in reserve. Nothing is displayed, everything is implied, and that implication is beginning to have an effect. On the Iranian deck, figures start to move. A few step back from the bow, one sailor lifts binoculars, another turns toward the bridge. The ship's speed wavers for a brief moment, then steadies again. The standoff has reached its limit. This is the point where restraint either ends the encounter or opens the door to disaster. At last, the captain speaks, not to the radio, but to the ship. Prepare to demonstrate presence. The words move through internal circuits without changing the carrier's outward appearance. Above the waterline, nothing shifts. But the balance has changed. And whether the Iranian ship realizes it or not, it has just run out of room to pretend any of this was accidental. 5:33 local time. The Iranian ship hesitates. Not in course, not in speed, but in behavior. For the first time since the contact appeared, something changes on their side of the water. Antennas begin rotating with purpose. A short burst of emissions ripples across the spectrum. Surface search radar tightens its sweep. No longer passive, no longer cautious. Inside the carrier's combat information center, the shift is immediate. Active emissions detected. The call is calm, clinical, entered into the log. This is not a weapons lock, not yet. But it is no longer observation, it is participation. The carrier does not answer, no radar spike, no counter emissions, no visual signal, the silence remains total. And in that silence, the Iranian ship is left to guess at intentions with no response to guide it. That is where the miscalculation begins. From the Iranian bridge, the lack of reaction can look like uncertainty. No warning over the radio, no helicopter overhead, no visible movement from the carrier's guns. To an inexperienced commander, or one under political pressure, that can feel like hesitation. It is not hesitation, it is control. Range, 4 nautical miles. The water between the ships is no longer measured in distance, but in seconds. At this closure rate, any aggressive move will bring consequences that cannot be taken back. The Iranian ship stays on course, speed steady. No apology turn, no sign of backing off. On the carrier, every possibility has already been plotted. Every response has already been practiced. The only variable now is timing. The Iranian commander believes he is building pressure, closing the gap, forcing a reaction. He expects a display, radio warnings, course corrections, obvious signs of discomfort. None arrive. That absence becomes a message of its own, and he reads it the wrong way. At 5:35, the Iranian ship shifts course again, 2 degrees closer to the carrier's projected path. Not enough to suggest an immediate collision, but enough to tighten the geometry. Inside CIC, the picture redraws itself. Closest point of approach shrinks. Intent becomes harder to deny. Still, there is no escalation. The rules of engagement remain firm. The carrier will not move first. It will not hand the smaller ship an image of overreaction. It will not offer a story of intimidation. So it watches. The electronic warfare teams continue their quiet collection. Frequencies, pulse patterns, timing. Every signal the Iranian ship sends is being gathered, logged, and preserved. Its radar is not just probing, it is revealing. At 3 nautical miles, the air between the ships feels heavy. On the flight deck, crew members look toward the horizon. Not out of panic, but because everyone understands exactly how close this has become. The Iranian deck crew grows more active. 2 sailors move toward the forward gun mount. They do not take positions on it. They simply stand near it. A visual message intended to be noticed. It is noticed. The carrier sees it. The carrier records it. The carrier still does nothing. That restraint deepens the misread. On the Iranian bridge, the lack of response begins to feel like leverage. A much smaller ship has closed on one of the most powerful naval platforms in the world, and still nothing visible has happened. No sharp voice over the radio. No outward threat. Confidence starts to grow. At 5:37, the Iranian ship emits again. Longer this time. The radar sweep narrows even further. Still not a full targeting lock, but now unmistakably directed. Inside CIC, the report comes in quietly. They're painting us. The words are calm. They do not need emphasis. Painting signals intent. The carrier's posture does not change because the encounter has now moved beyond deterrence by appearance and into deterrence by certainty. At this distance, the Iranian ship has only 2 outcomes left: turn away on its own or accept what follows next. The Iranian commander waits. He expects escalation. He expects a warning shot, a hard radio call, a visible shift in steel and power. Instead, he gets nothing. The silence stretches. It becomes uncomfortable, and inside that discomfort, the mistake hardens into belief. The Iranian ship makes one last adjustment, a subtle turn, aligning even more closely with the carrier's track. The message is unmistakable. We are not backing down. Inside the carrier, the captain watches the display without expression. He has seen versions of this moment before, in other seas, under other flags. He knows what comes next. He also knows that once he acts, the story ends for the other ship. That is why he has waited. He lets the Iranian vessel commit completely, leaving no room for doubt, crossing the line from provocation into documented intent. At 5:39, the captain speaks, not to the Iranian ship, not over bridge-to-bridge radio, but to his own crew. Execute presence. The order is exact, limited, and irreversible. And in that instant, the Iranian ship's misread becomes complete, because the carrier was never uncertain. It was allowing the smaller vessel to write its own conclusion. 5:40 local time. The carrier does not alter course. That detail matters. No turn into the wind, no increase in speed, no visible reaction that would suggest alarm or retreat. The ship continues ahead on the same heading it has held since before the contact first appeared, forcing the geometry to resolve on its own terms. The change comes above the waterline. On the flight deck, rotor blades begin to turn. Not fast, not dramatic, just enough to be unmistakable. The Seahawk's rotors bite into the air, lifting heat shimmer and deck dust in widening circles. To an untrained eye, it could look routine. To anyone watching through optics, it is a clear change in posture. At 5:41, the helicopter lifts off. It does not rush toward the Iranian ship. It climbs slowly and with purpose, holding altitude long enough to be seen clearly from the bridge of the approaching ship. The markings are visible. The silhouette is unmistakable. This is not a strike aircraft, and it does not need to be. The Seahawk banks wide, taking a line offset from the Iranian ship's bow. It is not blocking the vessel, not challenging it head-on, simply making its presence impossible to ignore. Inside the carrier's CIC, sensor feeds sharpen. Electro-optical cameras lock on. Infrared tracks pick up heat signatures across the Iranian deck. Faces, movements, positions, captured, time-stamped, stored. Nothing about it feels theatrical. It is methodical. At 3 nautical miles, the helicopter levels off. The distance is deliberate, close enough to be unmistakable, far enough to remain restrained. The aircrew keeps the nose steady, the aircraft hanging clearly against the bright sky. The Iranian ship reacts at once. Deck crew look up, one points, another steps back from the forward mount. Binoculars appear on the bridge. What had felt assertive only moments earlier now begins to feel exposed. The carrier still does not hail. The message is being delivered visually, not verbally. At 5:43, the Seahawk pulses its laser. Green, controlled, non-lethal. The beam settles on the Iranian ship's bridge windows and holds there. It does not sweep the deck. It does not move toward the forward mount. It stays fixed in the one place it cannot be ignored. This is not a guidance beam. It is a statement. You are seen. At the same moment, the radio comes alive for the first time in the encounter. The transmission is calm, measured, professional. Iranian naval vessel. This is a United States Navy helicopter. You are operating unsafely in international waters. Alter course immediately. The message is repeated once in English, then again in simplified Persian-accented English for clarity. No threats, no ultimatums, no raised voice, just a fact, delivered plainly. The Iranian ship does not answer, but it does begin to slow. At first, the change is subtle. The bow wave softens, the wake shortens. Speed bleeds off by a knot, then another. The Seahawk holds position. No pursuit, no intimidation run, just presence. Inside CIC, the numbers confirm what the optics already show. Speed reduction detected, course holding for now. The helicopter maintains its wide, steady orbit. The sensor operator zooms tighter. Faces on the Iranian bridge are visible now, turned upward, narrowed against glare and uncertainty. This is the point where the miscalculation starts to collapse. The Iranian commander understands that something has shifted, though not yet how completely. The carrier has not engaged. It has not maneuvered. It has not raised its voice. Instead, it has made the encounter undeniable and fully documented. At 5:46, the Iranian ship reduces speed again. This time, the change is obvious. Deck crew move away from the forward mount. Hands go to the rails. One sailor lifts an arm, not as a signal, more like a reflex, the instinctive reaction of someone who knows he is being watched. The Seahawk stays exactly where it is. Then, the laser goes dark. That matters too. The message has already been delivered. There is no need to press it further. A few more seconds pass. Then, the Iranian ship's bow begins to drift. Not a sharp turn, just a few degrees, enough to widen the closest point of approach. Inside CIC, the watch officer marks it at once. Contact is altering course. The carrier still does not change a thing. The helicopter completes one more slow orbit, giving the Iranian bridge time to absorb what has already happened. Sensors remain fixed. Recording continues. At 5:49, the Iranian ship commits to the turn. The bow angles away. The wake curves. The distance begins to open. There are no cheers on the carrier, no visible reaction. The Seahawk climbs slightly and banks back toward the flight deck. No rush, no change in tone. The encounter is ending not with impact, not with warning shots, not with escalation, but by subtraction. The Iranian ship removes itself from the equation. By 5:52, the range is opening steadily. The carrier resumes flight operations without announcement. And the only real proof that anything unusual happened at all is a block of data, a set of recordings, and one simple fact. The carrier never changed course. The other ship did. 5:56 local time. The sea looks unchanged. That is the first thing most people would notice. Blue water, a clean horizon, no smoke, no debris, no obvious sign that anything extraordinary has just passed between two warships in open water. But inside the carrier, the event is already finished. The Iranian ship is now widening the gap. Its wake bends gently away from the carrier's track, each minute adding distance that cannot be taken back without another deliberate choice. Speed remains lower than before. Course continues to drift farther from the intercept line. No pursuit follows. The Seahawk settles back onto the deck with the same calm precision it used on departure. Rotors slow, chocks are set. Crew step clear. No rush, no raised voices, just another recovery entered into the log. In the Combat Information Center, the final entries are made. Time of initial contact, maximum closure rate, active emissions detected, laser presence used, course alteration observed. Everything is factual, everything is timestamped. There is no line marked victory. There does not need to be. The carrier remains on its original heading, never once departing from the transit plan set hours earlier. Aircraft begin moving again. Catapults cycle. The ship settles back into its normal rhythm, indistinguishable from any other morning at sea. That is the point. The Iranian vessel remains on radar for another 20 minutes, a fading return slipping deeper into the clutter of ordinary surface traffic. It makes no attempt to close the distance again. It does not transmit. It offers no explanation. Eventually, it becomes just another contact on the screen. The ocean did not change. The outcome did. The smaller ship entered the encounter believing proximity created leverage, that closing the gap would force a reaction. That silence meant uncertainty, that restraint could be tested. What it discovered was something very different. Discipline creates pressure. Silence denies the other side a story, and presence applied at the right moment can end the exchange without spectacle. No launch sequence was initiated. No deck system was brought to bear. No warning fire crossed the bow. And yet the result is complete. The Iranian ship leaves the encounter with less than it arrived with. Not damage, not losses. Something harder to measure: initiative. Every second of the approach was recorded. Every emission was captured. Every maneuver was logged and preserved. The encounter now exists as data. Reviewable, repeatable, impossible to dispute. The carrier gains something without ever fully showing its hand. That is why the final detail matters most. At no point did the carrier accelerate. At no point did it turn. At no point did it threaten. It simply allowed the other ship to choose. And when that choice finally came, it was not the one Iran expected. This is how modern sea power often works. Not through spectacle, not through noise, not through force used too early, but through geometry, patience, and timing. By the time the Iranian ship altered course, there was nothing left to contest. The encounter had already been decided, not in the air or on the water, but in the narrow space between action and restraint. Later, analysts will review the logs, frequencies will be cataloged, behavior patterns will be compared with earlier encounters. The event will become a reference point, a quiet case study filed among many others. It will not dominate headlines, it will not become a public drama. But for the crews involved, the lesson will be unmistakable. You do not need to fire to control an encounter. You do not need to raise your voice to be understood. And you do not need to pursue a ship that has already backed away. The carrier continued on its route exactly as planned. The Iranian vessel did not. And that difference, subtle, easy to miss from the outside, is exactly why the encounter ended the way it did. Then this happened. No dramatic blast, no vessel lost. One ship turned away, the other never adjusted. In operational terms, that says everything.